Hello viewers, welcome again to another video where we'll try to compromise a machine on HackTheBox. So the name of the machine is IClean. It's a medium level Linux machine. Let's read some information about the machine. So as I said, it's a medium difficulty Linux machine that features a website for cleaning services company. The website contains a form where users can request a code, and then this particular site is vulnerable to cross-site scripting. The vulnerability is exploited to steal an administrator cookie, which is then used to authenticate ourselves into the administrator dashboard. And then the page is also vulnerable to server-side template injection, and that is where or how we get our foothold into the server. All right. So whilst we are doing our enumeration, it revealed that we can find database credentials around, so which are hashed. So we just have to crack the hash, and then we can use the database credentials to gain access via SSH as a different user. All right. So this user has more privileges than how we entered the system. Okay, so checking the sudo configuration of the user, we find out that we can run this program, which is qpdf as root. So that is how we are going to escalate our privileges to root. So without much I say, let's go and see if our machine is ready. Yeah, it seems it's ready already. So yeah, it's ready. So we just grab our IP address, click on it, and then it's copied to clipboard, and we can start scanning our system. So we'll start with our nmap scan, but we need to start with sudo. So sudo nmap tag scv tag p-p to scan all ports, and then tag on. So we're going to save the output of our nmap command to a file called nmap2. And then we can also specify minimum rate to be, let's say, 10,000, and let's see the boss output, and we can slap our IP here, and then the scan should start. Alright, so we need to put our password. Yeah, so the scan is ongoing, so it can take a bit of time to scan. So I already have the scan results, which I'm going to show to you in a minute. So let's open that with Sublime Text. So Sublime, I think is called nmap. Let's see what we have. Yeah, so these are the nmap scan results. You can see the nmap command that was run, and then we can see we have two ports open. So port 22, which is running an open SSH version 8.9. We also have port 80 open, running HTTP Apache. All right, not much information from here, so we'll try to access our port 80. So we open our web browser, and then we try to go to HTTP. The IP address was 10.10.11.12 if I remember. Okay, so we are not able to access this, so we have a problem. You can see that we've been redirected to a particular domain called capiclean.atb. So we need to add this to our host file. So let's do that. So do sudo etc host. Okay, so we need to use Sublime to open it. Alright, so we have our host file here, so we can add our IP address 10.10.11.12, and then we'll put the domain in there. So this should now be able to give us access to that particular site. Yeah, so we have it here. So we have a website where they offer cleaning services. We can pop around. When you open, you come here, we have a form here that you can log in. So if you already have a username and password, which you don't have, it doesn't have any registration function, so we can register as a new user. So we could try to brute force this login or try some SQL injection techniques here, but it's not going to work, so we are not going to waste much time on this login form. All right, so when we go down, we can see that they can provide you a code for the service that you may want to have. So when you come here, we have different services. We have carpet, tile, and then office cleaning. All right, so we can say, okay, we want to do office cleaning, and then you have to provide your email address so that they can reach back to you. So I will say me@me, and then instead of submitting this request, we are going to intercept it. So let's use our web suite to intercept the request. All right, web is opening. I should have opened web in advance. It always takes time to start up. All right, so. Alright, so our web is open, so we go back to our browser and then we have to keep our proxy on. So we're going to go through proxy. So what happens is that this fields here, that's where the vulnerability is. This input box is not vulnerable, but the check boxes, they are vulnerable. So the developers didn't consider that the checkboxes could be attacked, so that's where we're gonna attack. All right, so let's, I think yeah, so we need to start our intercept and then we submit the request. So the request has been submitted, so let's send it to repeater. Okay, so in repeater, if you send, all right, if you send, this is the information that you are going to have. Your code request was sent to our management team. They will, so let's see whether the same thing. Okay, yeah, so we have it here. Your code request was sent to our management team. They will reach out soon via email. Thank you for the interest you have shown in our service. All right, so when you are told that they will reach back to you, it means somebody is going to action on your email. Okay, so when someone is going to action, there's always a potential to inject a script, so that like you can always inject cross-site scripting so that the one responding to you can steal the person's cookie. So if you're lucky enough and it's an administrator with administrative privileges, yeah, so that's going to be good for you. Have enough of administrative access into the website. So that's what we are thinking. Okay, so we go back to our proxy and then we can test all the fields for cross-site scripting, but the field that is vulnerable is the service field. All right, so the service that you chose, so this is the field that is vulnerable to cross-site scripting. So what we're gonna do is just to send a cross-site scripting payload to steal a cookie from the administrator or whoever user actions on our request or our code. Okay, so we're gonna use the image tag and then we source it to, let's just source it to hash. So this one is going to give an error, so we say on error. So on error we want to fetch http and then 10.10.14. Let's see what's the, let's check the IP address of our Tanzero interface. Okay, so it's 14.2. all right, that's where we're going to receive our cookie. So let's go back and then .14.2, and then we can try to use port let's say 555. Okay, this should be it, and then we'll just call it let's say stolen cookie. So stolen cookie is going to be equal to whatever cookie that we'll get. So we'll say document.cookie. So that's where the cookie is going to come from. All right. So before that, we need to start to listen for the cookie. So we can just use a simple netcat. So nc.lvmp, and then we'll listen on port 555. All right. So if the administrator or whoever actions on our request, their cookie will be sent back to us. Okay. So, but before we go ahead, we need to encode this payload. So let's go to convert and then URL encode. So URL encode it, and then we can send a request. All right. So we come back, and then I think it takes about 30 seconds for a response to be received. So let's see if everything works. All right, we should get a response. Okay, beautiful. So we have our cookie here. So this is stolen cookie, stolen administrator's cookie. All right. So let's take some notes. Let's use Sublime IClean notes.txt, so we can save the information that we go as. So let's come back here. We need to copy our cookie. Yeah, we can copy the whole response, HTTP response, but we know that our cookie is this part. So this is the cookie. All right, so this is the cookie. So we have session, so the cookie name is session, and then this is the cookie value. All right, so we can try to see, this is a flax cookie. All right, so this is a flax cookie. We can try to decode this cookie to see what it is if we want. So we can try that. Let's try to decode this cookie. We can do that using a flax assign. So let me see if I have flax assign. Okay, so yeah, so I have flags assigned. So the cookie, I'm going to put the cookie here, and then I'll say decode. All right, so I'm going to decode this cookie. All right, so the cookie decodes to row. So this is the name value pair. So like it's an object, so it's the row, and then what's the role of the like the role of the user. So this is like an MD5 hash. So what we can do is we can use John to crack this hash, or we can use an online hash decryptor. So what I'll do is I'll just echo this into a file called hash. Okay, so let's do that. So if we cut hash, so we have the hash value in there. All right, so what we're going to do now is we are going to use John to word list. So our word list is going to be, we're going to use user share word list, and then raw queue, and then our hash, and then we can specify the hash type is a raw MD. So the format is going to be a raw MD5 hash. All right, so let's see. Okay, so we see that our hash has been cracked to admin. So the hash is admin. All right, so it means the role, let's go back here. Yeah, so the role is an admin. Okay, so this is the hash, this is the cookie for an administrator or an administrative user. Okay, so that's just what we wanted to confirm. So now we know that the cookie belongs to an administrator. We can try to, okay, so what we need to do is we can try to do some directory brute forcing. Let me do it on a new window. I'll call this go buster. All right, so I'm going to use go buster to directory brute force dir. So the user, the URL is HackTheBox. .atb, and then the word lists. I'm going to use user share word lists, the buster directory list 2.3 medium, and then I'll use 100 threads. Yeah, this should be fine. So let's see where we okay, so unable to connect to HTTP. Alright, so it's HTTP, and then we put HTTP. Alright, so it's brute forcing. So this particular, we have a route called dashboard. Okay, but first of all, let's authenticate ourselves. So first, dashboard, if you try to access dashboard as a normal user, it brings us back to the index page. Okay, so we cannot access the administrator dashboard. All right, so what we need to do is to add our cookie. So we go to storage, add cookie. So here the name of the cookie was session, and then the value. So let's look at the value. So the name was session, and then this is the value of the cookie. So the cookie value. All right, so if we refresh again, come back to storage, we see that our cookie is still intact. So now I think we should be able to access the dashboard. Let's try again. Perfect. So now we have the dashboard. We are accessing the administrator's dashboard. So we have some functionalities here. We have generate invoice, generate QR. So let's see what these are. Generate QR. Okay, and then also have edit services and quote requests. So these two, they don't do much. So the functionality of interest, or the endpoint of interest, are the generate invoice and then the generate QR. So if we come to generate invoice, you can select whatever service that you want, and then the quantity. So let's say 5, and whatever you put here doesn't really matter. So test 1, and then address is AAA, email me. All right, so we can send this to generate an invoice. All right, so before we send it, I'm going to intercept the request so that we can modify it the way we want. All right, so we go to proxy and we generate. Okay, so this is the request. I'll send the request to repeater and I'll forward the request. All right, so let's see. So we see that it has generated an invoice ID for us. All right, so when you go back to the page, you can see that an invoice ID is generated. So we'll copy this invoice ID. We come to generate QR. So we put generate QR. All right, so we'll generate QR. So our invoice number, so the generate QR, you have to put your invoice number here, the one that we copied from the other tab. So we put it here, and then it generates the QR. So this is the QR, and then you can copy the QR to generate a scannable invoice. All right, so let's see if we can copy this to generate the scannable invoice. So the vulnerability is in this particular aspect where the scannable invoice is supposed to be generated. It's like a lot of validation or sanitization wasn't done here. So here we are able to inject code in this particular input. So before we submit, we try to intercept another request. Let's intercept request proxy. Alright, so this is the request that we are actually looking for. And then when we come here and when we send the request, let's see what happens. So the request is sent, and then this is the QR. Alright, so when we go back to our page, we should be able to see a QR. So we've seen that the QR has been generated with some invoice details or invoice information. Okay, so this is what happens, and then the QR, the box, the input box where we had to input our QR is vulnerable to server-side template injection. So the application is a Flux app. See, there is Python workshop, so it's a Flux app. So we can, and Flux use some templating to dynamically handle input data. So we can try to use a Flux templating. And so let's see. So okay, we try to just put ABC as a test string because the output was coming here. So this is the output. It comes somewhere around this side. So let me say after main. So let's say after main, that's where the output comes. So let's send this request. So you can see that the source, the data, the information we put here is reflected back to us. So if you put 1 2 3, thing is it will reflect. See, 1 2 3 is reflecting back to us. So this is good. So we can try to see if we can inject code. So let's say if we can do any operation, let's say 2 times 5, which is supposed to be 10. So if this runs, it means it's been able to execute our script here. So let's try. So you can see that it's 10. All right, so this tells us that we will be able to use this templating, like it's vulnerable to server-side template injection. We'll be able to inject code into the server side. All right, so what we'll do is we'll just search for Python templating to run system commands, something like this. Let's remove our proxy and try again. I think we can search for SSTI payloads. Like, yeah, a notable site is HackTheBox. So we can get SSTI payloads from HackTheBox. Let's see which of the payloads we can use. So we have so many of the payloads for different languages, and the one that we are interested is Python and Ginger. So let's search for Ginger. Okay. Okay, let's refine our search. um, SSTI Python payloads to run system commands, because we want RCE, or let's say RCE, Python payload for RCE. Okay, so this one is coming back again. Let's see, probably need to take us to it's the same. Let's go back and check. Okay, Ginger, let's check this one. All right, I'm just looking for the right payload to use. So yeah, so this is Ginger injections. Check. Okay, so RCE escaping. All right, yeah, so I think this is what we are looking for, RCE bypasses. All right, so I think we can use this particular code because this one has some obfuscation that bypasses filtering. So this should be able to help us get RCE. So this particular code here, when we check, if we decode this, this is going to be our reverse shell. If we decode this, we can decode it to see what it is. So let's clear and then echo, and it's a base 64, and then we decode. Let's decode it and see what it is. Okay, so you see that it's just a reverse shell, a bash reverse shell. So we can modify it. That's what we're gonna do. So we're gonna modify it with our IP. Our IP is 2, and then we can listen on port 777. All right, then we go back and then re-encode this. So base 64, let's see, echo, and then send it to base 64. Okay, so this is what we're gonna get. Let's just confirm. Let's try to decode it back and see if we can get back the same string we supplied. Just a confirmation. All right, that's it. So our base 64 is correct. So just come and copy it back here, and we use this payload in our request. So instead of using a simple template, we're gonna change it with our reverse shell payload. But before we send a request, we need to encode it, URL encode it. All right, and now we're listening on port. We use port 777, so we come and set up a listener. Let's clear, and then RL, using other up, NCLVMP, and then 777. So we are listening for the connection. So if everything is right, we should be able to get a reverse shell. All right, so yeah, so we have a reverse shell. So if we do who am I, we got access into the system as www data. Okay, so first of all we need to try and then stabilize our shell. So I will say let's write it down here. This is what we're going to use to stabilize our shell. Python 3 dax c. So import pty.spawn, and then we have bin bash. All right. Okay, so just copy this and run it. All right, and then we'll export term equals to x10 so that we can clear our screen. Okay, what else? So we do Control Z and then sttty raw minus echo fg. All right, so yeah, this our prompt is now properly stabilized. All right, our shell is stabilized now. So if we try to list what is in this particular folder, that's the web folder, we have an app.py. All right, so the app.py, you can try to search for credentials from the app.py. We can let's try to grep, and then what are we grepping? Let's grep username. Let's grep username from app dot, or let's grep user, because sometimes it may not be username, it may just be user. So let's grep user from app.py. All right, so we can see that we have a user called IClean. All right, so we grep again password. So instead of password, we can just say pass, and then we can see that we have a password. All right, so this is username and password for a database access. Okay, you see that we have a select statement here. So we have credentials for a database, but we don't even know what kind of database it is, so we can try. So we can display more data. So let's grep, I think it's minus a5, and then minus b5, and now we can say user from app.py. All right, so this one will give us enough information. So we can see that we have a database configuration here. So we can copy out a whole of this information, and then okay, all right. So if we do which, let's clear screen, have no real estate. If we do which MySQL, you can see that MySQL is installed. So these credentials, we assume they are credentials for MySQL. All right, if you go through the code, you'll be able to see that it will reference MySQL. Okay, so we just do a connection to the MySQL database. So we do MySQL, and then the user is IClean, and then the password was yeah, so this is the password. So you put the password, no space between the tag P and the password, and then we can also do tag D to specify the database that we want to connect to. So the database name is Clean, so we can put that one as well, and we try. So yeah, so we are in the database, so we can show tables in the database. So we have users tables, and then we can try to see information from that users table. So we use select statement, so select everything from users. Okay, So select everything from users. All right, so we can see that we have some credentials, some usernames and passwords and hash passwords. All right, so username is admin, and then password is Consuela. All right, good. So this admin, we already authenticated ourselves into the system as admin, so that's not what we are interested in. We are interested in this particular user, and when we come back to, we can exit our database. All right, when we go to cd home and then we list, we can see this user. All right, so we can try to pivot into this user when if we are able to crack the user's hash. All right, so what we do is we copy the hash, and then we try to crack it. We can use a crack station. So let's use crackstation.net. I think there's a problem with crackstation, and let's see what type of hash it is. So let's say hash identifier. Let's use hash identifier to determine the hash. So this is a SHA-256 hash. All right, so we can crack the hash with John also. So what we do is you can say sublime, and then we say hash2, because we already had another hash we called hash1. So hash2, I'm gonna save the hash in here as hash2, and then we can crack it with John. So we use John word lists. We use user share word lists roq, and then we have hash2, and then we use the format. We say raw SHA-256. If this is all right, let's see. Okay, so it's cracked the hash. So the password is simple and clean. All right, so we have some creds here. So the user, and then we have the password. So the password is this, and then the user is Consuela. All right, so what we try to do is we try to see if we can SSH into the box with this particular user. So let's try that. Let's clear SSH, and then Consuela at clean.atb. Yes, and then we'll put password. All right, so yeah, we've been able to SSH into the box as Consuela. All right, so we do, when we list, you see that the user text, and then we can cut the user text or the user flag. So we have our user flag, button our user flag. So we can come up here, and then we say flags. So user, and then root. All right, so we have the first one, which is the user flag, and we hunt for the root flag. All right, so if we try the sudo configuration for the user Consuela, let's see, it's asking for Consuela's password. So we go back here. All right, and then we can copy that. Okay, I think we didn't copy the password properly. Okay, so you see that Consuela will be able to run this particular file or program is qpdf as root or any other user. Okay, and root is the user of interest. So consuela is able to run this program as root. So we can copy this. Let's try to copy this information down here. Okay, so we try to see what is this program. Let's see what the program is. We just try to run the program by itself and see what it does. So an input file name is required, so you require an input file name. So this qpdf is a program used to create, modify, and do a whole lot of things to PDFs. All right, and then realize that this particular program will be able to attach local files. Okay, so since it's able to attach local files and it can be run by root, the file is owned by root. So if we list, you can see the owner of the file, the program is owned by root. So if you're able to use this if you're able to run this program, we can use it to copy the root SSH keys if they are present, and then we can use the same program to view the keys. All right, so it's clear, not clean. So what I did is you can go and do a bit of research about the program. So you can go to the manual pages. So it's qpdf man pages. Let's see. All right, so to give you a brief idea about what it does, so you can read files, and then it shows examples of how to use it. All right, so our interest is to use it to attach files, so we can search for attachment. So if we search for attachment, we see embedded files attachments. All right, so we'll be able to use it to attach files. So if you use this option, so attach file, and then you can also use it to list attachments and then also show attachments. Okay, so without saying much about the program, I'm just going to show how we can use it. Okay, and then when you search, we don't need to create a PDF before we attach files to it. We can create a PDF from an empty page. All right, so with that one, you have to use the empty switch. So let's start. So we say sudo qpdf and then empty. So the empty means we are creating an empty PDF file, and then attach. Let's see, I think it's add attachment. Okay, so the attachment we want to add is the root private keys, so which is always stored somewhere here, SSH and then ID underscore RSA. So that's how it's always stored. So the attachment, after the attachment, you have to put this double dashes. All right, and then the out files, how do you want to call the output file? So we can just call it out.pdf. okay, all right, so let's list our file and see our folder. You can see that it's created. So if you do file out.pdf, you see that the document is a PDF document. All right, so we can check the content of our attachment. So we use sudo qpdf and then I think that one is list attachment. All right, and then what attachment are we, where our attachment are going to be in this our file PDF. Let's see. Okay, so yeah, it's been able to copy, it's been able to attach. So this is our attachment. That's the ID RSA. That's good. So what we do now is we use sudo qpdf, and then now instead of list we are going to show attachment. We want to show an attachment, and then the attachment key is the ID RSA, here from the out.pdf file. All right, yeah, so this is our private key. Good. So we'll be able to steal the private key with that particular command, with that particular program, sorry. So we can save this private key in a file and then use it to log in. Okay, so what I'll do is we can use Vim. I'll call it priv key. I'll just call it priv key, and then this should be it. Okay. Okay, so if I cut priv key, alright, so I've saved my private key in a folder called priv key, and then I have to change the permission to 600. Private keys have special permissions, and then I'll do priv key. Okay. Alright, so now I have my private key. I can use it to authenticate myself with SSH. So I'll do SSH tag I, then I'll say priv key, and then it's a private key for root user, so I'll say root at clean.htb. So if everything is right, our private key is right, we should be able to log in as root. All right, so we are root. If we clear and we do who am I, who am I, we are root, ID root. So we'll be able to root the machine. If we do ls, we can see our root.txt. That's our root flag. We cut our root flag, and then we have root. So that is the end of the box. We've been able to get both our user and our root flags. You can try to submit them and see if they are correct. So let's copy our user flag here, and then our root flag. Okay, let's try it. Okay, so that was correct, and then our root flag, that was also correct. So chain has been formed. I hope you learned one or two things from this walkthrough, and then I hope to see you again in another video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. See you again another time.